Hi, Paul Sowerby taking time out with Tony Underwood for part two of a conversation about his life at the very top of world rugby and his life now at the very top of aviation as a captain of A380 aircraft with Emirates. We were talking earlier, weren't we, about that game, that Rugby World Cup, and we were drawing from it the parallels between the All Blacks and individuals that play within it. But of course you had your own experience of that also in 95-96 season when you joined Newcastle Falcons, which, if my rugby history serves me correctly, was shortly after the sport went professional. It was sort of a scratch side, effectively. It had been brought together with a great deal of haste, it seemed, and it read like the who's who of world rugby. But you went out and I think within the first season won the Premiership. And that, to my mind, was one great example of how a lot of very iconic individuals needed to come together to play as a team from different parts of the world, because you had islanders like Inge in there. What I'm interested to know was, what do you think that we can take away from that into our businesses and into our working lives, bearing in mind that, you know, we're going to come off the back of this wretched virus with a lot of people who were accustomed to working as teams now working individually remotely at home, and then having to go back and embrace team spirit. How are businesses, do you think, going to be able to engender that team spirit again and maybe learn from professional sport?
Well, first for this story, just to make sure it was a year and a half before we won the Premier League. So it did take a bit longer
year
than
and a
that.
half.
We weren't quite Roy the Rovers, but almost. But listen, yeah, tricky. And yeah, maybe started going with Sir John and Rob Andrew, Dean Ryan and Steve Bates. From the beginning, I guess you've got to have clarity about what you want from your group. And from what you want is in terms of what they bring to the table, in terms of the individuals you bring. Because for them it wasn't enough that they were, talented rugby players. It's how we were as individuals as well. Would we fit into the environment that they were creating? And so yes, but I mean, the fortune, I suppose, that it's at the beginning of it all, and maybe this is what this is, the beginning of a new sort of period, where you can take a blank piece of paper and say, right, if I'm going to start all over again and write on a piece of paper what I want from my group as individuals, and what I want from them in terms of how I want them to feel, what culture that I want them to be involved in while they're here, and engender, be fresh with it, be bold with it, just as they were, but be also very clear and concise that, nothing but these guys will do, because, and we're very fortunate at that instance they were able to do that. Yes, there were a few bad apples, and just as now if you start with a clean sheet, you'd have a few bad apples along the way. When I say bad, I mean just slightly bruised. But and I'm sure we all got slightly bruised apples when in the environment you're in. But well, a clear goal about what you want from everyone, a clear identification from them, what you want from me, what they wanted from us, and what you would want from them, and continual buy-in to it. I think from the outset we all understood what was required of us and what we were sort of aiming towards, and how we were going to get there, and what was okay and what was not okay with the group of guys we were bringing in together. So hopefully not, that people know me, not too big an ego, and that was a very much a collective thing, even amongst the sort of superstars you'd have in there. Maybe John Bentley, maybe a little bit slightly larger ego than most, but even him, a huge work ethic involved in anything he did, and that was the same amongst all of us that were there. So we had a clear idea what was required of us in terms of how we would conduct ourselves, what was expected of each other, what was the goal, how we were going to go about it, and also a clear sort of leadership from the guys that were running the thing. Again, what was okay and what was not okay, and we had room for manoeuvre within there. And let's face it, we're probably seeing so much of that right now, aren't we? That are you able to work in an environment like this, or in the middle of a city office, and still get the same results? And how do you bring them together as a group? When sometimes you might not even be together.
Yeah.
And I think that's the major task facing a lot of people, and understanding just how important a team is, and especially when, well, what is team for these people right now? Is it the other guy at the end of a camera, or a phone, or a Zoom meeting, or whatever sort of medium they choose to get together? Even if they do get together, sometimes so much work is done, separately and independently nowadays. Somehow they need to have something that they buy into to make the most of the goals that come from interdependence amongst each other. So much can be achieved by just working together and independently, and will continue to be achieved. But I think people, when they understand just how much can be gained as a group, not just for the company they might work for, organization they might work for, but intrinsically within themselves, just how much you gain from that experience of working together in an organization and achieving something together. It doesn't always have to be that way. You can get something with a suboptimal performance, and I think in industry that's very much the case. I think, isn't it? I mean, you can go from A to B without things working optimally, and have a reasonable performance at the end of it. But if we're searching for more than that, and we're searching for and also just, I don't want to go spiritually about it, but when you achieve something together as well, and you see a better performance and a better result, and you've done it working together with other people somehow in this weird medium, hopefully people can do that. They'll get a massive amount from it.
And if, given what you've achieved in 2 careers, professional sport, professional aviation, if there was one thing that you think business could take away and benefit from in terms of the vast experience that you've had at the top of those 2 careers, what would it be? What would be the one piece of advice that you would give to business people who are going to have to now step up and engage with individuals, try and get them to play as a team, and to forget about the fact that their egos, they need to lay those to one side and really try to unite behind a common goal? What would be the one piece of advice that you would give them?
Well, tricky, because I'll have to start with a sentence with that. That's a very tricky question, Paul. But I'll try and intro it as best I can straight from your answer. You have to cut there.
Shall I ask the question again?
Unless you wanted to lead into it.
Yeah.
You can cut it.
Fine. What are you going to say? What do you want to say? I don't know. One piece of advice would be...
No, I mean, because that was different to what I've waffled on about earlier, I guess, because so you segue into it. Do you think you can cut into it?
Yeah.
Cut into it,
Yeah.
or segue by talking.
No, what I'll do is I'll just say, and put a bit of rugby up, and one final question. The final question has got to be: you've reached the top of 2 careers, both of which have required teamwork. What would be the one piece of advice that a business person looking at this would take away from that he could benefit from what you've achieved? What do we think it would be?
Just talking now.
Yeah.
Like talking now. Or
No. You talking to me.
I think talking. It is if you like, this is the cream. This is what we're asking for people to do to work in a team environment. Is I can go a year and do many flights from A to B. I don't even talk to anyone in this crew, or people don't even talk to each other, and we can go from there to back, and we don't have to work optimally.
That's the one. That's the answer. Let me just ask that question, and then we'll get you going.
If you're looking for that,
Yeah, that's exactly what we want.
okay.
So one final question. You've been at the very top of professional sport. You are now at the very top of aviation. 2 stellar performances, but businesses are going to come out of this lockdown looking for their own stellar performance. And I guess that's got to come from bringing together all of these individuals that have been working remotely and having them play as teamsters again. If you could give one piece of advice from your experience of trying to make people play in teams, what would it be?
Well, I mean, I come from an international professional sport where you have to operate optimally. And I guess, you know, safety notwithstanding, and we put that into any flight we do to be as optimal as we can do. But in an environment, in a corporate environment, I think when you're searching for optimalism, that's if you're looking for that extra 5 or 10%, you need to understand what working as a group means as opposed to working as individuals. And I think that's not just for the performance of the company, but I think for the performance of the individuals and for them themselves, just how much more they'll get out of their performance and their environment they're in. If they understand just what a difference it makes.
Perfect.
So what is the bloody word? Optimalism?
It says low battery.
I bet it does.
We can maybe do it on. I'm sure there'll be stuff there to get us started. But what we could probably do.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And also we're up the road.
Yeah.
For the next 10 days.
I think
Let's meet up.
what I was going to.
You can hopefully come up
I
there.
think we're going to do that anyway.
Okay.
And even if we just, all I really wanted to do today was to see if it works, because it does. So I think what we'll do is, if it's all right with the viewers, we'll just script it, not the answers, but so that you know what's going to come next.
No, I don't mind. No, Paul. I slightly flummoxed with that one, but because that's a book, isn't it? That's a $1 billion book.
I know, that's why I was probably balking at the idea of giving my intro away.
Oh, Tula, don't go in there. You get so.
I'm the younger one, Betty. She's at Exeter, but missed quite a lot of it. That was first. Oh, she was just in first year.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think that's all a bit unsettling, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, so sort of strange times, really. But
Yeah, very.
Spielberg has nothing to worry about.
okay.
All the sound engineers.
You're still recording. So press stop.
Yeah.